question and answer.
Let's hope so. Does this work? No. Does this work? You can hear us anyway.
Hello.
The little light is on.
Well, I guess it works.
Yeah, it's working now. Okay, good. Very good. I almost thought about joining in.
Hearing of a list of accomplishments, I feel like even more like a slacker than I really am. Is there anything you've attempted to do that you failed miserably at?
Only things that matter most. You know, I mean that like, I failed miserably at being a good friend at a lot of times, and I failed pretty miserably in my first marriage. That was a pretty serious thing to fail at. You know, I fail as a parent all the time. I don't... failing at the arts, it's not like sports. You know, there is no winning. You know, I have some friends that are doing this thing on the computer, you know, where they do the Oscars 25 years later. They have this group of people that you vote on all the Academy things 25 years later and see if it turns out to be the same. And of course, it never is. And it's kind of a fun little game to play about movies that weren't nominated that year, and we all get to kind of laugh about how silly, you know, what people perceive as success in the arts oftentimes is not actually related to success.
Well, along those
Does that make
lines.
sense?
No, it does, because along those lines now, you're 13 years old, and you've already started acting. You were in St. Joan, I assume not the title role.
Look, a kingfisher. Oh, that was my line.
Okay. It's better than Gondola's the Castle of My Father.
Was that your first line?
No, that was Tony Curtis.
Okay. I often confuse you two. It's very
But okay, so you get cast in the film Explorers.
Yes.
Now this must be like, you know, for a 13-year-old, you've just been told that every week is going to be Christmas now.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible.
And you make the film, and it doesn't do that well. It
doesn't do well at all.
I can only assume that for a 13-year-old, even more than a grown-up, that must be like, they don't want me, they don't like me. I mean, how did you snap back from that at such a young age?
Well, it's a great lesson. I think that single failure, I see where you're going with this now, was one of the greatest preparations I could have for a life in the arts. I got this part in this movie called Explorers. They were doing a nationwide search. The director had just done Gremlins. It did, you know, E.T. had come out a couple years before, and everybody kept, I know this sounds pathetic, but when you're 13, it was like, you're going to be the next Henry Thomas. Like, wow. And I was really excited about that, and I bit the apple hard, you know. It was a really exciting thing, and I told all my friends what a big shot I was going to be, and I remember I had to leave. I was a freshman, I was on the football team, and I quit and told the coach, you know, well, I'm going to be a movie star. And I had to come back after it was over, and then, you know, I turned very quickly into the butt of everybody's jokes. Weren't you going to be in that movie? What happened to that movie? Did that movie even come out? You sucked in that movie. That movie sucked. And it was incredibly, I used to have all these dreams that for about 3 or 4 years I had this reoccurring dream that they remade the film without me. And it was actually heightened by the fact that I became very good friends with River Phoenix, who immediately jettisoned to stardom. And so there would be sometimes in high school where somebody would come up to me with a cover of People magazine and ask me to sign it because I knew River. And if you knew River at all, it was really upsetting because that would make him very happy. You would have thought that was cool.
You mentioned River. Now, I can remember the first time a peer, someone my own age, passed away. I mean, I was used to grandparents. I was used to, you know, people my parents' age. But this was like, and as if I needed more training in this area. It hit me that, okay, this mortality thing. This also applies to me. You know, this also applies to folks my age. Do you remember your reaction? Did the death of River maybe have some effect on your goals? Maybe this made you want to try more, accomplish more?
To answer that question, you'd have to know that I still have, or my mother still has, my New Year's resolutions for 1986, and number one was to stop being so jealous of River, and it was a real hard thing, he was a really amazing person, and it was hard. In the New York Times the other day, there was this big article on DiCaprio, and I stared at it for a while, and I just thought, how much time River has missed now, at the time, I did feel what you felt, but I also felt there's that kind of youthful romanticism around death, that it almost seems interesting or something. And the older I get, the less interesting it gets.
It's pretty damn boring, man.
Yeah, I don't like it at all. But did it motivate me? It motivated me only to see how trivial jealousy is. I liked him very much. I admired him very much. But his great gift served as an inspiration. I was a less good actor after he passed away. I didn't get his roles. There's no pie that he was eating more of. I wasn't a better actor without his light. I was a less actor, and it seemed very clear. It seemed a cruel way to learn the lesson, but I've never. It cured me of that.
Now, I've often talked with actors over the years about, they enjoyed working with this person, and they had a great time with this person or whatever, but also more what they learned from working with certain people. I'm going to name 3 people you worked with fairly early on.
Okay.
And, one you worked with fairly early on, and you worked again with recently, Albert Finney.
Yeah.
Rich in Love, and then just
Before the Devils Are Dead.
Sidney Lumet's last film.
Yeah.
What do you think you learned from Albert Finney?
Well, I'll tell you a funny story about Albert Finney, which is that we had to go get our physical together. I don't think he'd mind me telling this story. And we were waiting while we're in a South Carolina, town shooting this movie, and he came out of his physical and he said, "The doctor said I'm an alcoholic." And I said, "Really? Why?" He said, he asked me how much I drink. And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, how many drinks do you have a week?" And I said, "I don't know, 7 bottles of wine a week." And the doctor said, "Well, you probably, that's a real drinking habit. You might be an alcoholic." And Finney said, "Imagine if I told him how much I really drink." Like that. Finney, those Brits, the thing that drives me crazy about the British is every director, who do they want in the role? They want, Jude Law, they want Ewan McGregor, Gary Oldman, they want Kate Winslet, they want, she's Australian, so she's British.
They all sound alike.
The point is that if you look at the Academy Awards, for acting, if you look at the list, the percentage that have gone to British actors is sky high when compared to the population. And it's crazy. Why you make that face?
Look, my father's from Ireland. You hear some of the things he said about the Brits.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. They train their actors. All right, and they don't treat it like it's some kind of race for the popularity contest. And I feel so lucky to be here tonight and not be dead on Sunset Boulevard like my friend, because it's there but for the grace of God. In England, a guy like River Phoenix would be trained. He'd be surrounded by people like Albert Finney who know they don't just know Shakespeare's canon. They know Shaw, they know Chekhov, they know, they take it seriously. it's not this kind of cult of personality that we have here, that where people get deified, you know, which is really bad for the person and for the audience. You know, and I think it's a real problem. And when I get to work with these British actors, you see it. You see it in his relationship to her. Albert Finney is on time every day. Albert Finney knows his lines. Albert Finney does not think he is God's gift to the world. He thinks he's a fine actor. And he goes about his job with as much discipline as possible. And it was a very good thing for me to be around as a young man, and very good for me to be around when I last worked with him too.